Now you can start.
Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello, my name is Jim Combs. I'm with IBM. I am part of the Maintenance, Repair, and Operations Inventory Optimization Solution. I am one of the industry leaders, and today we'll be discussing how to optimize your maintenance, repair, and operations inventory. We'll talk a little bit about what the solution is. We'll talk about the problem, our approach, customer success, and how the solution works, and then we can do a Q&A. So when we're talking about inventory optimization, what we're really talking about is pulling your transactional history, your issue and receipts, your bill of materials, vendor lead time information, the pricing from your ERP systems such as SAP, Oracle, or maybe an EAM system like a Maximo system. We're taking that information and we're running it through a pre-configured solution in MRO IO, and what we're going to provide you are actually stocking recommendations, min-max, reorder points. The idea is try to run down excess stock and ensure you have the right stocking levels to ensure for maintenance activities. So this focus is definitely on spare parts, maintenance, repair, and operations. The solution's been around for over 30 years. We started out in Brisbane, Australia in mining. We go oil and gas, mining, transportation, any heavy asset industry we target. We were acquired by IBM in 2018. We have a global reach with customers globally. We have a very high retention rate. Once our customers start using the solution, they stay on the solution. And again, we go across many verticals. And we have tens to thousands to hundreds of millions of dollars in inventory being utilized by our solution today. So let's take a quick look at the solution itself. Well, it is a SaaS solution. It provides you with a consolidated view of your inventory levels across one plant, multiple plants, or your entire enterprise. Okay? We do an impact code of your criticality, which we'll talk about here in a few minutes. But business impact or criticality is really very important to utilizing the solution and understanding how those recommendations are generated. It's continuous optimization. Once you get the solution up and running, through implementation, it will provide you with recommendations continuously. Those recommendations are then pushed to your ERP or EAM system. When we design the system, we're taking in consideration all the variables from the implementation, your implementation, through a criticality workshop, through a configuration workshop as well. We have certified SAP connectors. We have certified Maximo connectors, and we can connect to any ERP or EAM system. The solution is very highly configurable, and it works for you. And the idea here is to sustainably plan and balance your inventory levels, and always ensure you have the right part at the right time so you can perform maintenance in a safe manner. That's what we're trying to do here. Optimize your stocking levels, reduce where we can reduce, increase where we need to increase to match a service level. And the idea, if you can crack the code, well, you can reduce your inventory up to 15 to 40% while synchronizing the supply side of the demand side. That's what we've seen with some of our customers. Now, benefits are very key. So if you think about it, if you could optimize your spare parts that you keep in your warehouse over multiple sites, understand the obsolete parts, understanding the overstock that you have or understock, we can help reduce that cost by up to 40%. We can improve efficiency. You think about it, if we combine purchase orders and optimize your economic order quantity, we can make your people more efficient. We can reduce asset downtime. Think about overall equipment effectiveness. We can help impact overall equipment effectiveness by having the right part at the right time. And we've seen downtime reduce up to 50%. Service levels. That's the ability for supply chain to supply parts to maintenance so they can perform their maintenance activity. If we can improve service levels by 25%, there's a huge benefit to the organization to keep the asset up and running. And the last one here is maintenance budgets. We have seen with some of our customers, they've been able to reduce their maintenance budget up to 35%. Now, the idea here, you think about it, these savings, they're cash improvements. And the idea is if we can take cash improvements and your company can use those cash improvements to fund other projects, well, that's the savings of the solution. That's the value proposition, to take those cash benefits and use them to support other projects. Our typical ROI is less than a year. The implementation is 3 to 6 months. So it's rather a quick return on investment and a quick implementation as well. So the challenge, I think we all understand in the industry, there's a huge challenge when you start talking about optimization, because a lot of organizations, they want to keep stock on hand to ensure their equipment's up and running. Well, you can see by this chart to the left, right? If you don't have enough stock on shelf, all right, you have a probability of having an asset go down without that part, which drives up your cost of maintenance because you have to find that part, have it shipped to the site. If you have too much stock, right, it drives higher procurement costs, holding costs, and then you start to have obsolescence. So what our solution does, it try to find that medium balance of having just the right stocking settings. And it's challenging too, because if you think about it, there's tens and thousands and hundreds of thousands of actual unique parts in your inventory. Each one of those parts have a unique variable: lead time, cost, type of information that you'll collect on it, the criticality, new parts. So what cost models do you apply to accurately track your inventory? That's a big problem. And times change, as we know with COVID. Lead time for these parts changed. Longer lead times mean you're going to keep more on hand to keep maintenance up and going. So it's very difficult to actually calculate, based on all the variables that we see today, what those stocking parameters should be without having a proven solution, a proven methodology that's auditable and repeatable. MRO IO fits that bill. The other aspect of this too, it's very complex. It takes people from supply chain, procurement, maintenance, reliability, operations to go through this to understand what those stocking levels should be. So it's very complex. But if you can actually crack the code by using MRO IO, you can often see there's hundreds of millions of dollars that you can save. If you don't, well, then you can see hundreds of millions of dollars going up your cost to keep your plant, your mine, your operations up and going. So it's crucial to optimize your stocking. So how does this happen? We typically call it inventory bloat. When an organization acquires another operations like a mine, or a utility acquires expanding for a new generation, or if you're merging organizations, you're going to inherit those assets, those pieces of equipment, the inventory. But how do you know what you have with actually identifying it? And a lot of times what will happen is you don't find out what you have in inventory until the equipment goes down. And then you find out some of those parts may not be fit for service, or they may be obsolete. You can no longer use them. So we find companies, they spend a lot of money and time and effort trying to use an ERP or an EAM system to try to optimizing their reorder points or stocking levels. And they'll use a lot of headcount to do this as well. But again, without a proven methodology, it's very difficult to use the tools that are available today on the market without having an MRO IO solution. And if you don't crack the code, it can become a sinkhole. And you can see a lot of our customers have experienced balance sheet growth anywhere between 2 to 10% annually. So without optimizing, costs go up, your service level can go down, and impacts your operations. Here's just a couple of our customers that have used the solution for a number of years. One of the world's largest aluminum manufacturers, they rebalance. Again, it's not about reducing all the time, it's about balancing. They were able to rebalance by 37 million in 1 year. It was a maintenance-driven initiative. You could see 30 million in reduction and 7 million to increase stocking levels to reduce downtime. And it did improve their service level, asset uptime, within the first 12 months. A major mining company out of Australia, They reduced their inventory by 52 million over 6 years. Inventory value decreased from 73 million to 21 million over 6 years. They achieved 50% year-over-year reduction in inventory over 6 years, and it improved their asset uptime. A major electric utility. If you think about utilities, they have to keep the plant up and running to produce electricity. This utility here in the US, they rebalanced by 33 million in 1 year. They reduced their growth from 10% to 0, all right, in that same time period. $18 million in inventory reduction with a $15 million increase, again, to ensure the correct service levels. Improved asset, net of 78 million spend avoidance over 5 years. Those are cash savings those savings can be used to fund other projects. And you can see here, critical spare service levels from generation improved to 99.7%. So service level is a very key component of our solution. One of the world's largest oil and gas companies reduced working capital by 10% in 6 months. Again, a maintenance-driven project. Lowered inventory levels at least 10% in 3 years in a row. Achieved over 90 million in savings through rebalancing over 3 years. Those $90 million were able to fund other projects. And not only that, the savings for one site funded the global implementation of the solution. So these are hard value facts from our end users. The solution, again, is proven, it's reliable, and it's repeatable. Here's just a splash screen of some of our customers that utilize the solution. As you can see, we have a very large footprint in mining, oil and gas, and utilities. So one thing I want to talk to you about is one of the key differentiators between our solution. And if you're looking at an EAM system or an ERP system, those systems don't provide this type of capability. But at a high level, what we're trying to do is we're trying to balance the risk of a stock out or lost production versus holding and procuring that part, buying that part. What's the right balance? And to do that calculation, something very unique to MRO IO, which is called our business impact, criticality of that item. A lot of customers have criticality ranking for the actual asset. For instance, this pump. This pump may be a very critical pump. It may be health and safety related. So it's an A. But what about the components that make up that pump? For instance, what about the motor? So if you don't have criticality ranking for your individual items, during our workshop, during the implementation, we'll work with you to determine what the criticality business impact to that part is for the overall asset. Because what you don't want to happen is to have a high criticality ranking when you've got too much on stock or vice versa. So one of the things we can do is we can take the BOM, bill of material. So we can create the actual item ranking, criticality ranking, business impact by looking at some of the information you keep in your EAM system or your ERP system. Is this motor, for instance, on a bill of material? Is it a single source supplier? What's the financial risk? What was the work order priority? If it's a motor coming from Germany, it takes 6 months to get. Well, that means you may want to keep a little bit more on your stocking shelf to ensure for safety stock because of the long lead times. And we know with COVID, that's impacting a lot of the lead times. What if it's safety related, as is a safety valve? Well, then that's going to be an A critical item. Our rankings go A, B, C, D, and E. E being the lowest, A being the highest critical ranking there is. So we can pull this information from your ERP, EAM system, right? The bill of materials, the actual work order information, the vendor lead times, all this information we're pulling in. A chair, an office chair, probably not a very high ranking from a criticality because you can get an office chair pretty much anywhere. So that's what's important to understand is during our workshops, we will differentiate between an office chair and an expensive item and work with you on the criticality ranking because that's very important when you start balancing your stock. This is just a real quick overview of one of our customers that allowed us to use this information. And you can see the order, okay? The vendor ranking, capital failure, work priority, business impact. For instance, if it's a consumable, it may be a C item because, again, it's important for operations, but you can get that consumable anywhere or a lot of places. However, if it is a vendor high ranking, capital failure, yes. Work priority, high, yes. Business impact would be an A. Again, this is an example that we used during a workshop to understand this prospect's criticality ranking. We use that criticality ranking again in the solution, okay? What if it's a low vendor ranking? Capital failure is yes. Work priority is high. So it would become a B item, and so on and so on. So we've talked about what MRO IO does. It balances your inventory to ensure you have the right stocking levels to meet your maintenance demands. We've talked about some of our customers that have used it globally and have found success. We've talked a little bit about the key differentiator of the solution, the impact codes, criticality. Well, the last thing I want to talk to you about is the continuous automated optimization. So how does the solution work, right? Well, first, we're going to extract data and history from your ERP and your EAM system. Your items, equipment, bill of materials, your issues, receipts, work order, supplier. We'll pull all that information, okay? Then we're going to enrich that data. We're going to use the costing models that we developed during the criticality workshop and configuration workshop. We're going to use a criticality ranking that were derived from the criticality workshop. So we're enriching the data. After we enrich it, we're going to segment those items because if you think about a bearing, may have a different segmentation than a cleaning solvent. So we do different segmentations based on the criticality of that item and where that item is used. For each one of those segmentations, we're going to apply the right forecast algorithm, the right costing model. And the idea is to get two outputs. The first one, for instance, is let's say you have a bearing that you can buy at any warehouse, any supply shop around town, okay? The bearing costs $5 US. You can get the bearing anywhere, all right? It's not a critical bearing. So for items that have low dollar value or low impact to the business, allow the system to automatically adjust your reorder point or your min-max, okay? The solution can do that. You can set up work queues that will automatically take these low dollar items, automatically review them, and send it up to your ERP system without any intervention at all. But what if you have a high dollar item? You can set up an exception filter. Let's say that motor, for instance, that motor comes from Germany and it's about $10,000 US. Well, you don't want that automatically being approved to go into your ERP or EAM system, which would actually issue a purchase order to buy that part. You want to evaluate it. You want to run what else scenarios. So the solution sets up work queues that will allow you to evaluate various stocking levels that you determine by looking at the vendor price, the vendor lead time, the item criticality, and where has it been used in the past. So it's going to make that forecast. So you can automatically have the solution approve it, or you can have exception filters where you go in and review and validate it, and then send it on to the ERP and EAM system through a approval workflow within the solution. And here's my last screen. This is just some of the smarts that's built in to the actual solution itself. Data enrichment, item characterization, demand forecasting, availability, lead time, item criticality, risk-based cost modeling, and workload prioritization and efficiency. So you can see this solution has been around for 30 years. It works with our customers to balance their inventory items. The savings can fund other projects. I'd like to thank you today for your time and look forward to your questions the next time we meet. Have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Excellent, Jim. Thank you very much for this presentation.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and see you on Wednesday. On
October 5th, right?
October 5.
Let me just double check I have it in my calendar.
Yes, please.
Hang on one quick second, because if I don't, that would be no bueno.